Hello there all my lovely jewelry makers, I'm Christina of CSLdesigns and today's video is going to be part 2 of last week's video where I tried out a laser cutter slash engraver for the first time. So if you haven't seen that video, I do recommend you maybe check that out first. I'll of course leave a link to it in the description box down below. But in this part 2 video, I'm basically going to be going through a few more things that we tried with the machine, but also showing you some actual finished jewelry that I made that I'm really pleased with. Now if you're interested in checking out this machine, I will of course leave a link to it in the description box down below. Personally, so far I'm very impressed and I can only recommend that you check them out if you have an interest in laser machines. Now they did also ask me to mention that they do actually have a new machine coming out soon, and that will be called the xTool F1. It will be the world's first 2-watt 1064mm infrared laser and 10-watt 455mm blue laser handheld laser engraving machine. And I'll be honest, that does sound very intriguing. So because this is going to be crowdfunded, depending when you buy it, there's going to be different prices. So for instance, if you buy the F1 before the 30th of November, you're going to save $500, which is quite substantial. And also the shipping is going to start at the end of March next year. So if you buy it now, you're going to be among the first that it's going to ship to. And more information on it will also be released soon, so you can always keep an eye on that. So we started out with the plywood again because we were pretty comfortable with that from the first time we tried it. And I had a few ideas that I wanted to do with it as well. And that involved designing some things first and then transferring it to the software and then getting the machine to cut it out. So the first thing that I want to show you are these finished earrings. And of course, because we are pretty much at Halloween, it's Jack Skellington, as you can probably easily see. So basically what I did was first of all design him in Procreate on my iPad, and I did 2 separate files. So I did the face and then I just did the shape of the head by itself, and we then cut them out separately. And afterwards I then started painting the individual pieces. So first of all, I covered everything in gesso to have a bit of a base layer, especially because these pieces were pretty burnt, which is something else I just want to mention. I did talk about it briefly in the last video, that some of the wood here did get quite burnt. Now it wasn't a big problem because I knew I was going to paint stuff anyway, but there is actually a way to pretty much avoid that, and that's getting a honeycomb base for the machine, so that basically lets air go through and avoids a lot of the singeing on the wood. So we do plan on getting that. But I then went on to paint the individual pieces. So of course the majority of it is white, but then just made sure on one side there of the back part it was black inside, and I also made sure to just cover the inside of the eyes, the nose and the mouth there in black as well. And once I then painted both pieces, I then glued them together with some wood glue and then just went over the edges again with the white just to make sure to kind of close up any seams that you could see. And to get a pair of earrings, I of course did that twice, and I then used the hole that I also made sure to leave at the top and put through some wire, and then I added some Swarovski beads there that kind of matches in the colors, and then attached them to an earring finding. So this is a really cute pair of earrings, I think, and obviously perfect for Halloween. And I did actually end up making 2 complete pairs because I kind of really liked the look of Jack, and I'm really happy with how they came out. And it just so happens that The Nightmare Before Christmas is my all-time favorite film. So these were the first pieces that I did, and I'm actually really happy with how easy the whole process was as well, because like I mentioned, I started in Procreate, then took the design onto the software, which is a lot easier to work with than I expected. Now what I also wanted to do is try a bit of a different kind of design. So I ended up making, again in Procreate, a more symmetrical design here. So I also turned these into earrings and a necklace. We'll see the earrings first. So again, I designed this in Procreate and then again transferred it into the software, got the machine to cut it out, and then again afterwards I made sure to cover everything in the gesso first just to have that nice base layer, and then I just painted these, in this case in copper paint, that actually I think is really nice. And then I kind of thought it was missing something, so I actually thought it would be nice to add a little bit of a sparkle there in the middle, and I just happened to have the perfect one. So I had these little flat back Swarovski, so I just glued on both sides as well. And also because I purposely made sure to leave holes on all 4 of the outer edges there, I added little dangles to all of them, which matches nicely with that bling in the middle. And then of course at the top I just attached it with some wire to an earring finding again. So again, I think a pair of really lovely earrings, and even though they're basically made from wood, I don't think that's obvious in itself, and I actually still really like how they turned out. But like I mentioned, I made this pair of earrings, but I did also just make a matching necklace. So again, the same size, and then just attach it to a chain there. So this is basically a full set that you can wear together, and I'm really pleased with how that turned out. Now using the same design that I just showed you but in a larger size, I then made these earrings as well. So these are obviously a little bit more of an impact when you wear them. Same principle though, I used obviously the same file and then just made it larger in the software, and then got the machine to cut out the wood and then covered it in gesso to make sure I had a nice base. And then I had a silver paint that I wanted to try and use for this, and this also worked out really well, I think. I then had a different color of these little stones for the middle, also Swarovski, that I actually think works perfectly with the silver. It gives it a really nice kind of icy feel, almost a bit Frozen inspired. And again, they are also double-sided, so I'm also pretty pleased with this pair here. Now if you watched the previous video, you would have seen one of the things that we tried out was engraving into some stainless steel blanks, and that is also one of the things that I'm most excited about with this machine. And of course we had to do a little bit more of that, so I did have a few more of the bracelet blanks left. So I had this idea to engrave something into them that's meaningful, in this case to myself obviously, which isn't necessarily just dates or names. So I decided I want my favorite quote slash saying engraved into it, so when I wear the bracelet I can be reminded of it all the time. So this was the first one that we did, and it turned out really nicely, except a little bit small. So what we actually did straight away was just make it a bit larger, because that way you can obviously read it a little bit more easily. So what this actually says is, yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, and today is a gift. That is why it is called present. So that is my favorite quote slash saying of all time, just because it reminds me of living in the now, and it helps me being more positive and motivated about things. Now this quote is originally from Kung Fu Panda, at least that's where I saw it. I don't know if it's from somewhere else originally before that, but that's the animated film where I first saw it, and it's just stuck with me ever since then, and it's always meant quite a lot to me. So I have a bracelet now where I have this engraved that I'm really pleased about, and what I really like about the engraving with a machine instead of say just stamping blanks is that I can literally use whatever font I want. So make it look just exactly how I want it to. So for instance, I really like this font. I'm pretty sure that I won't be able to get that in stamping blocks and also then get it this precise. I then wanted to try another one again with a quote that I think is really nice as well. And this one says, try to be a rainbow in someone's cloud. I also really like that saying. So again, same principle, you can just look down on your wrist and read this whenever you're wearing it, and it can just remind you of the things that matter and kind of help you to be more positive. So I'm really pleased with these bracelets as well. Now if you remember from the previous video as well, we also engraved into some little round blanks, and we just couldn't get it quite right centered wise. So of course we had to work a little bit more on that, and I think we finally managed to get it to work. So what I made was what I wanted to originally make in the other video as well, is basically get initials stamped here on the little round blanks, because they are quite small as well, these ones. So I have an N on one side, again in the font that I like, and then this one I did double-sided, so it's a G on the other, and these are my two babies. So G is for Gizmo and N is for Newt. And then I just added a little dangle here, which is their birthstone, because they have the same one since they're brother and sister. And the dangle here is Sapphire, because they were born in September. And this is just something really special and meaningful to me. So I'm definitely going to be wearing this necklace. This will be a new favorite of mine. So I think this is just a really precious piece of jewelry. I then also had an idea to basically make star signs engraved into them. So I just used my own star sign first of all. So I'm a Gemini, and one of my birthstones is Moonstone. So I have two little rainbow moonstone beads here as the dangle. And then again, this is something quite personal, but I do also think a really precious piece of jewelry. Now we did just do a couple of more as well. So we did a few of the Gizmo and Newt ones with initials. Again, double-sided, because what I thought with these was one of them my husband could take and put on his car keys, so he'll always have them with him. And we did also make his star sign as well. So again, you can do the same thing if he wants. And they're not too big and bulky or anything. They're just adding a nice little personal touch. So these all worked out really well, I think, and I'm really pleased with that, and I can't wait to make more. I have already got some more blanks to try out. Now these ones are larger, as you can see next to each other, quite a bit larger. So I got these originally, and when they arrived I was a little bit surprised how small they were. Now that's my fault, because even though I read the size, for some reason I just didn't picture them being this small, but I still like them, and they're really cute for just having the initials and things like that. But I did also want to get some that were larger, so I can try those out and be able to add even more design to them. Now the final thing I just want to share with you is not really specifically jewelry related, but something I'm still very excited about. So if you remember in the last video, I did mention that this machine also came with a rotary tool. So that's for things like bottles and tumblers, and I was really excited to try that out, because for several years now I've been using thermal bottles to drink water out of all the time. We put ice in them and the water stays cold for ages. So I had an old bottle that I was willing to kind of give up to try and use in case it went wrong, and that's this small one here, because now I'm only using larger bottles. I haven't used this in a long time because it's a small one. This is a lovely beautiful copper. I've always loved this bottle. except for the fact it's a small size where now I prefer the larger ones. So what we did was just take my initials, CSL, to engrave just to see what it would be like. Hopefully that it would turn out nicely. And if it did turn out nicely, I have my initials engraved. So I was pleasantly surprised how that turned out. Now there was a little bit on one side here that got a little bit weird, but because this did work out quite well, I did end up just saying screw it, I'm going to use my other bottles as well. So next is one of the bottles I use regularly. Now I wasn't too concerned about this going wrong because this bottle has already started to kind of deteriorate in the sense that the coating is coming off by itself anyway. So if it did go wrong, it wasn't too big of a deal. But again, it worked out really well. So I'm really pleased with how this looks. Too bad the bottle itself isn't that nice anymore, but hey ho, it can still be used. Finally, the last bottle that I use all the time, which is also a larger one, is this purple one here. And this has a different coating than the other ones do. And I do think this is the kind of coating that's even more ideal for engraving with a laser machine like this. Again, I really like how that looks. It's very nice and crisp. Now, when we've done these bottles here, my brain started going with ideas that I really want to try and do as well. I'm picturing, especially on the larger ones here, it'll be perfect. Basically have inspirational, motivational text in some way. So just where it's not just initials or something short, but kind of a longer text that you engrave all the way down. I use my bottles daily, and then every time I pick it up, I can just see that text and be reminded about something positive. So I really like the idea of that, and I'm very excited to try that out at some point as well. Oh, and I almost forgot just to show you just a little extra I did. Now I did do this sign in the last video I showed you, but while I was painting the other things, I then just thought, why not just paint this as well? So this is where I engraved my text logo into the wood, and then we cut it out after, and I just painted the base purple, which is my branding as well, and then just the part that's engraved I paint it with this silver paint. So I actually think that worked out really well as well, and I have a cute little sign that I can use for something. Can maybe put it on a door or something like that. So anyway, that's what we did this time around, and I'm really pleased with how everything turned out, and I cannot wait to experiment some more, both with the engraving on the metal pieces, but also making more designs that I can maybe cut out in wood and turn into jewelry as well. And of course, we can't forget the bottles. But otherwise, I really hope you enjoyed this video, coming along with me on my laser engraving / cutting journey. And now if you want to stay updated with more things that I'm going to be doing in the future with this machine, I think the best place would be to follow me on Instagram, because there I'll post more regular updates. And of course, I'm going to leave links in the description box down below the video here to the machine specifically, and whatever else I can find. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching this one, and I'll see you in the next one.